Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's November 21st, 2019. This is the Basement Grown Fun Guys podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Tony, and today we're going to be talking about something that if you're over the age of 16 in America, you've probably experienced yourself.
Or you're part of the
Driving.
problem.
Driving. Well, you know what they say is that no one raindrop feels responsible for the hurricane. So,
hmm
you're not stuck in traffic. You are the traffic.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, we're going to be talking about driving today. Our
Now,
grievances with it and how much we have to do it all the goddamn time, and it's something we all deal with, and it can be so frustrating
hmm
sometimes.
now,
Nice at other times, though. Nice at other times.
with a disclaimer, some of the stuff we're going to talk about are Ohio rules or laws as far as driving goes. So they might not apply to where you're at. If anyone,
Yeah, not
yeah.
necessarily.
So,
Like, we drive on the right side of the road. Where you live, they might drive on the left side of the road, but
yeah. Generally, our gripes kind of will probably find themselves a little bit heard anywhere in the world. Um, so
Don't you hate it when someone pulls out in front of you and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
oh,
oh,
there he goes. They just cut me off again. There he is.
right there, bud. Like,
So, one thing
well,
that I experienced today is it always seems like the car that you drive reflects a little bit of your personality.
mm-hmm,
It's kind of a little bit of who you are. Like the guy who drives a dirty Subaru hatchback and has a bunch of bumper stickers is probably pretty much a hippie. He's pretty chill, he's pretty cool, man. He'll let you merge, bro. It's no problem. But people who drive BMWs are assholes. So it just kind of reflects who you are, like deep inside, what kind of car that you decide to drive.
yeah,
And I've noticed that most of the time when I am aggressively tailgated by someone, they're driving a gigantic fuck off truck. And I've just got to say, if you drive a gigantic fuck off truck, and you drive well, you're courteous and you don't go too fast and you don't tailgate people or cut people off, then good for you, man. Good for you because you're a rare fucking breed. You know that? You're a
well,
rare breed.
so okay, I don't have, I never get bothered by truck drivers too much. I'm like,
Oh, yeah?
no, like anyone in the trucks, like most majority of the trucks I see are not a problem. And we're talking about, like F-150 Silverado size trucks, not of course, we're not talking about semi truck drivers, because those are a whole different animal sometimes. But
Mhm.
no, for like the average truck driver, I do not have a problem with. Now, there's occasionally that asshole, but it's not usually because he's in a truck, it's just because he's an asshole.
I think it's the negative bias. Like you don't remember the truck drivers that aren't assholes because well, they don't stick out. They're just another
Yeah.
driver on the road. But you always remember the ones who aren't. And it
Well,
seems to me like most of the negative experiences I have fall into a few different categories. They're
mhm.
the giant fuck off trucks that are pristine, by the way, not a speck of mud upon them. So, they're just daily drivers.
Mhm.
You don't need a truck that big. But that's beside the point. You do you, man. But you don't have to be an asshole when you do it. Big trucks, big fuck off trucks like to tailgate you. Anybody driving a BMW, like as soon as they see the little BMW logo on a car that's just weaving in and out of traffic and driving way too fast, it's like, oh yeah, that's a BMW driver, right? He's just the
Mhm.
kind of guy. Old people, old people in Chrysler Town and countries. I don't know what it is between like every time I see a Chrysler Town and Country now, I just kind of get a little bit of a kind of thing, and then I see them swerving in their lane a little bit, and I'm just like, where are you going? Where are you going? Then I go up to pass him, and I see he's a geriatric guy leaning over the steering wheel like he can't really see. You're just like, oh, well, that'll do it. That'll do it right there.
Um, the one I got that it does seem like every single one fits into this is anyone driving a Challenger or a Charger, and then
Yep.
the majority of Camaros. Mustangs, I don't seem to have a problem with. Maybe it's just because really like looking at Mustangs. I really do like Mustangs, but um, I don't really see too many people being ridiculous in Mustangs. But no, Camaros, Challengers, and Chargers. This like the American muscle cars. Everyone that I seem to find in those are being half of Camaros. I will say half of Camaros because it's about 50-50. Like it'll either be like a guy going way too crazy with things or, just a guy driving a Camaro. But for some reason for Challenges and Chargers it was most of the time. Like I'd say 90%.
Yup.
Um
I
now,
can corroborate that.
yeah. Now, so okay, you're bringing up tailgating. Now, the thing is, I admit that I tailgate every once in a while, but it's because of something that someone does. And what drives me up a wall, grinds my gears, clogs my toilets, is when someone moves over into the left lane, which is the passing lane,
Right.
um, and then is not at a speed that is passing cars. So
It's very aggravating. I do agree.
So, like, say I'm coming up now. I might be going a little fast. Now, I usually try to keep it within 10 of the speed limit on the highway, 5 on the general streets, which is pretty normal for I think about the majority of the population.
Yeah.
And well, at least in Ohio. But I'll be coming up, say 75 into 65. Which the thing is, if you're in the left lane, you're supposed to be passing. So majority of the time I'm doing that. Cars in the middle lane, right lane, or whatever are going 65 or around there, whatever. But I will be coming up, and this guy moves over to the left lane. Which usually this person is also tailgating before they pull over or before they move over. Like they are right up on the guy like that's in front of them, and then they'll move over. But then they'll just sit there. They won't try to pass the person that they just moved out from behind. They're just going to sit there and then coast at 65, and then they hold me up. And I'm like, why? Why do you do this?
Yeah, well, they're assholes, and the part of the reason, because I've had this explained to somebody before of like why they decide to cut people off in the left lane and go like slow, is because they're trying to police their speed because they think that they're going too fast. Which, one,
Okay.
that's not your job. You're not supposed to do that. It's dangerous. I read, I'd have to find it, but the article about motor safety that says that people who drive too slow on the highways are just as dangerous, if not more dangerous in some circumstances, than people who drive too fast.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is difference in speed differentials. Like if everybody's going fast, you got to go fast too. It's called keeping with the flow of traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you see the entire left lanes going by real fast, right? Maybe they're going a little bit too fast for your comfort, right? But you're
Mm-hmm.
getting a little frustrated because the guy in front of you is going like, exactly the speed limit or under, you're getting a little
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. What you need to do is you need to wait until the left lane clears up enough for you to pass. Don't cut somebody off going the same speed that you're going just because you want to get around right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not cool, man. Don't do that. That's
Yeah.
dangerous too, because then they're gonna have to hit their brakes, and then it's like a slinky effect. Because the
Yeah.
person behind them is gonna have to hit their brakes, and the person behind them is gonna have to hit their brakes. And it's just brake lights all the way back, like 50 miles. That's how
Mm-hmm.
traffic happens. That's how ghost traffic happens. You ever get in a traffic jam where it's like stop and go traffic on the highway, and you have no idea what's going on, and then after you reach a certain point, it just magically vanishes.
Every single day.
That's the ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening. Is people switching lanes, causing other people to hit their brakes, and it ripples back through all the cars. So my golden rule is that you shouldn't drive in such a way that a direct result of your actions will cause someone else to hit their brakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay.
Like you shouldn't do that. Like it's just generally accepted. Like I don't think it's good to tailgate people. Like I accept that you might get angry that someone cut you off, but
Hmm.
that's dangerous too, because it
Yeah.
might be that geriatric guy in the Chrysler Town and Country. He doesn't even know that you're tailgating him, right? Because he's just focused on the road ahead that he can barely fucking see anyways, because he
Hmm.
needs his prescription changed. But he lost his health insurance or whatever, so he can't get new glasses. He can't see the road in front of him, and he's trying to focus, and then he sees something. It could be a tire, could be a squirrel. I don't know. So he hits his brakes, but you were too close, so you
Yeah.
bump right into the back of him. So I
Well.
just I don't think it's a good thing to tailgate
Oh no.
when you're
I
frustrated.
I will not tailgate for an extended period of time on the highway, or if there is traffic. Now, see, the thing is, like, most of the times I'm talking about when I would tailgate someone because I do get a little frustrated. I do get a little road rage. I admit this. Is that it's like early. So they explain my driving for the day is I go to the gym every morning, Monday through Friday, before I go to work. So I am leaving the house at like 5:30. I get to the gym about 5:50, 10 minutes before they open. So usually I have no traffic. Like I mean there's cars, but we're all like every car is going 15 miles over the speed limit. Everyone is hauling ass and moving. And it's good, but there is an occasional guy that gets over in the lane that is not moving as fast as he should. And so at that time, I will tailgate him because there's no one really behind me. It's light traffic. It's more of a show of like, hey, dude, the fuck. But if it's on my normal drive home, there's always a section of my like drive that gets clogged up because of people doing stupid shit, which is the ripple effect, the slinky effect that you brought up. And I
Hmm.
will not tailgate in that because I was actually rear-ended because I gave myself enough room. I was able to come to a pretty quick stop, but the problem is the guy behind me, he said his brakes failed, which is possible, but
Sure.
I think he was kind of a young kid.
They
Um,
failed to stop me from running into you, is
yeah.
what he means.
So but yeah, so that's kind of to clarify, like my tailgating. But like when you're in a traffic area and when you're in a pretty like um you know in a high risk area for a quick stop, if I can put it
Hmm.
that way, yeah, don't tailgate. Make sure you're. And the thing is, if people are getting pissed at you because you're giving space in front of your car, just ignore it because that that safety buffer is not only good for you, it's good for the people behind you. Because if
Hmm.
you give yourself more time to slow down, that means the people who are tailgating you or being um, assholes behind you more time to slow down, and so that you won't get your car hit. Because the thing is that what sucks about like my issue got dealt with pretty easily because he claimed fault and he was fine and what everything was good. But the thing is, most cases people are not going to be that easy to deal with. So if they hit you, then you have to call the state troopers, get the troopers out there, and argue. Oh, it was his fault. I gave myself an. But the thing is, then it's like there's no guarantee that even though it wasn't your fault, that
Hmm.
you'll get your comeuppance for it or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
generally, I mean, once again, speaking from Ohio laws, if you get rear-ended, most of the time, insurance and the police are going to side with the person who got rear-ended
Mhm.
because you're not giving them enough following room. Like, provided you don't have ample proof that they were brake checking you on purpose or doing something stupid, right?
Yeah.
But to
I
the point of leaving room in front of you in a traffic jam, I really like doing that. And everyone should, but most
Mhm.
people don't. Because the only thing barring like obstacles in the road, like I said, the squirrel or the tire piece that's in the middle of the road, that you gotta slow down or change lanes to get around. All the stopping on the highway is caused by lane changes.
Mhm.
It's caused by people getting over without enough room and people having to brake to let them in or to not hit them. So if you leave ample room in front of you, not only does it mean you don't have to hit your brakes as often because you can coast, it also leaves room for people who want to change lanes, to
Hmm.
do whatever they want to do, right? So you don't have to hit your brakes when they change the lanes. You can continue to coast, so the person behind you doesn't have to hit their brakes, and so on and so forth. And if nobody's hitting their brakes, guess what? Everybody's moving. There's no stopping. But not everybody likes to do that. I feel like this should be taught in like driver's ed, like 101, like people should be, you know, given this knowledge more readily than having to figure it out on your own through trial and error. Because I went through driver's ed. They never talked about that shit. They just said, give good following distance, but they never said why.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people, just telling them blindly, don't do this, well, obviously they're not going to do it unless they see the reason why. So don't do that. And if you're driving, a Challenger, right? You don't have to tailgate people, okay? You're driving a BMW, you don't have to either, right?
Hmm.
If you're driving one of those Honda Civics with the funny looking backlights, you don't have to tailgate people.
Hmm.
You don't have to do that, right? We get it. I mean, come on, man, it's a Challenger. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
I mean,
um, but yeah.
but speaking of expensive cars, though, another Cadillacs are another big offender in my book for
Really.
people who drive like dickheads.
Mm.
Yeah, like the amount of Escalades that I see that like drive like complete assholes. It's like
Hmm.
mixing the asshole that buys a really expensive Cadillac, right,
Hmm.
with the asshole who wants to drive a big ass truck. The Escalade is like the perfect combination between the two that just seems to result in a lot of really annoying or irritating drivers. Like I've counted in the past few times because I used to drive back and forth about 60-mile trip in order to get to the school I was going to back home, right?
Hmm.
And I used to drive that every day, Monday to Friday, and sometimes on the weekends to hang out with the people that I met there, go to meetups or whatever. And most of the time, if you know Cincinnati, you know there are wrecks. There are wrecks almost every single day,
Hmm.
and during rush hour morning and rush hour evening. So the majority of the time, especially if you're on 71, there's going to be a wreck and one of the lanes is going to be closed.
Hmm.
Now, if that's the case, usually you can tell pretty far ahead of time if the two right lanes are completely stopped and the left lane is completely empty. No one's in the left lane, right?
Hmm.
That's the lane that's probably closed. So you should probably make an effort to get over at some point.
Hmm.
But for some reason, Escalade drivers don't give a fuck about that. You see them screaming up the side, sometimes even driving on the shoulder to try and get around a traffic jam. And then they reach the end. They're just like, "Can I get in? Can I get in? Can I get in? Let me in." And they just
Hmm.
start driving. They just drive in where they're like forcing their way into the lane. You gotta let me in. There's no more lane here to skip,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And people keep letting them in. But I
Oh
have a
yeah.
mission for you, drivers. I have a mission for you. Don't let them in. Just don't do it.
Hmm.
Just don't do it. If the lane's closed because of an accident, there's cops right there, right? They know what that car's doing is wrong. And if they ding you, you're only going like 5 miles an hour. It's not going to hurt you, right? And they're going to be at fault for it. Just don't let them in. Make
Hmm.
sure they learn their lesson.
Now.
Because if they don't, they're just going to keep doing it.
Hmm. All right, so you bring up a good point about when there's a lane closed, but I do want to touch on one thing real quick. Because I've had a car broken down and a little issue is that in my area there are it's truck drivers with lights and stuff that are, I think they're sponsored by State Farm. I don't know if they're owned by State Farm, but they're at least sponsored by State Farm, where they'll
Mhm.
come up and pull up behind broken down cars, accidents and whatever, and kind of like alert traffic to say, hey, there is an issue here.
Mhm.
Please slow down or move over. And I gotta give those guys credit, and I'm glad they do that because it's a little bit of a comforting factor because,
Yeah, it's
like,
roadside assistance.
yeah.
Great.
And when I was broken down, I broke down on the highway because my ball joint on my passenger side on the front side dropped out randomly. Um, Guy pulled up and it was like, but the thing is, like, before he got there, I actually had I moved like my wheel was like into my car a little bit because it lost control or whatever. But I actually had to move over. I was so uncomfortable because cars were just screaming by me and my car was shaking from the wind and
Mhm.
of cars going by. So I moved over, but then once the guy showed up, and I feel bad for slowing cars down, because of an incident or whatever. But shout out, I know we're complaining a lot, but shout out to the State Farm guys for doing what they do. But the other point I want to make is, you talk about people trying to police other cars when it's not their job. Um,
I know I
so
sound like a hypocrite saying that not to let them in, but
no, no, see, that's not the point I want to make. But because I've
uh,
seen this before, where a lane is closed, and so people are going up, passing, and whatever, and being that kind of dick or whatever. But then there'll be that car, which this is usually a truck driver because truck drivers don't give a shit because they got a truck. That will split the lane between like the one that's closed and then the lane over it, and try and block people from um going forward. You're not helping. You are
mhm.
doing nothing to help. Stop it. I get that you think you're being helpful, you're not. Stop it. Do not do that.
Yeah, that's a little bit more dangerous than the end of the lane where there's
There's
everybody's come to a halt
Yeah.
together because that's if you see flashing lights and orange cones, you kind of know that but if you see like a single car almost
Mhm.
in your lane,
Well,
that's border that's pretty dangerous because they're going at speed when they get to that point.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing is and the thing is if you're splitting the lane, you're liable. That's your fault if you get hit.
Hmm.
It's not the car that's speeding up trying to, cut a cut the line. That's your fault if you get hit. So, people listening, do not do this. I get in your head you are trying to be helpful and you think you're being helpful. You're not. And I get it's frustrating to see people just skip the line. But it's one of those things you just got to be patient. You'll eventually get through it. In your head, those guys are skipping lines are just assholes, but don't try and split the lane to block cars from um moving forward in a closed uh quotation mark closed lane. Um but also, so with splitting, I want to bring up another point, which I've seen this a lot in motorcycle videos. Now, granted, that's a lot of people putting these on YouTube, and so you see this a lot because that's what's being put on YouTube. Is people with cars blocking motorcycles from splitting lane. Like, so, motorcycles will go through splitting the lanes and just go in between cars on the highway that's traffic jammed, whatever. Um, Again, here's the thing. While I don't approve the motorcycle of doing it, or the motorcyclist of doing it, do
Hmm.
not try and stop a motorcycle from splitting uh lanes, because if you hit them,
Yeah,
it's
they'll
not like
die. Like
yeah,
that's
it's
the end. You know?
especially if they're going at speed. It's not like you're hitting another car.
So a little note about lane splitting though. In Ohio, that's illegal, right?
Mhm.
You're not allowed to lane split on a motorcycle, but in other states, it's legal. Like you're allowed to lane split and stop traffic
I did
on a
not know that.
motorcycle. And I'm pretty sure it's legal in California. But yeah, in
No.
other states, it's illegal. So if you try to block a motorcycle from lane splitting, Yeah, you might be grumpy that stupid little guy and a stupid little bike is getting past all the traffic, and I can't do the same thing, man.
Mhm.
But he can. And if you are in a state where it's illegal to do that, how bad is your road rage that you would kill someone, like literally murder someone for not driving how you want them to,
Mhm.
right? Like even as much as they annoy me, the Escalade drivers and the Challenger drivers and the Ford F-150s, right?
Mhm.
Never once in my road rage have I wished that, man, I wish I could just kill that person right now.
Mhm.
No, I'm not murderous. And if you are murderous because of road rage, 10 deep breaths in and out.
Mhm.
Slow, deep breaths.
Yeah. I mean, I
Because you shouldn't kill someone for driving in a way that you don't like.
yeah. And I'll admit to my road rage it pretty much limits out at flipping people the bird. It's about as far as it gets because, I'm not going to risk my car or my bodily safety to try and, you know, have a dick measuring contest with somebody over what I think they did wrong or whatever. So,
Hmm. Well,
and
I don't even do that because of just how crazy some people are, right?
mhm.
Like when you get behind a car, it's kind of like being on the internet. There's a degree of anonymity to it, right? Because you can't usually see the other person's face, especially at night, right?
Mhm.
It's just an object. You're angry at an object. And when that object who you're angry at, right,
Mhm.
reveals to you that it's telling you to go fuck yourself, right? You get mad. You get fucking it's like, what the fuck? Who the fuck does he think he is, right?
Mhm.
And some people are a little unhinged, right? And I don't want to invite that level of rage to come after me, by threatening them like that.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
no, I'll admit I'm a little bitch when it comes to flipping people a bird. I will like hide it behind my little dash where the where your meters are.
Right.
Like I won't actually like there has been a couple times where I flip now also you know me, I'm a little bit more aggressive and I have a little less fear of people. Um not necessarily like I'm not saying you fear people like a little less than you, but I don't like I mean I'm not trying not to make this sound like I'm an asshole, but
You're not afraid of confrontation, is what you're trying to say.
yeah. And now, okay, and I know my limits. I know I could hold my own in a fight in a general sense, in a very like broad sense. I would probably be okay.
Right,
You
but could
know,
you hold your own against a gun?
no,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is you don't
yeah,
know who the other person is that you're
yeah,
antagonizing. Like if it's just
that's
two guys
true.
on the street and he's giving you shit and stand your ground, whatever. But
Well, and I would never actually let that happen. Well, okay, and here's the thing: if they try to block you, never let yourself get like okay for if anything ever happens where someone tries to stop and get out of their car, do not stay there. Leave. Get
yeah,
the
just
fuck
drive away, man.
away.
You're in a car.
And if you hit them when you're trying to leave, call like, don't just leave, or go get away, but
Get to a safe place,
report
but
it.
make sure you call the cops.
Yeah. Because the last thing you want to do is like kind of try like cuz like if you just run and you don't like report it or whatever, like you're kind of incriminating yourself. That's a hit and run whatever. But um try and like you don't want to if someone gets out of the side of the car that's kind of like almost intent you know
Hmm.
whatever but
Well, yeah, I mean, legally speaking, there's assault and battery, right? Assault is just being menacing towards another person and threatening
mhm
harm. You know, and someone road raging at you and then getting out of their car and approaching you in a huff,
mhm
that could be considered assault. The important thing is just keep yourself safe.
yeah
I would just err on the side of safety and just don't try to antagonize random strangers just because you don't like the way that they've been driving.
yeah
You know,
all right
if you're like secretly, like flipping them the bird behind your sun visor or some shit and they can't
no
see, obviously, whatever, just vent a little frustration,
Yeah.
but don't like lean out the window and start yelling at someone because they cough to cut you off,
Yeah. All right.
Because I delivered pizzas for a while, right?
Mm,
And I've driven a lot. And I've also been in quite a few really sketchy situations, right? Just delivering
mm,
pizzas. So I'd like to say I have a fairly good sense for what's cool and what's not cool. And the basic rule of thumb is just don't antagonize anybody because you never know if they got buddies hidden around the corner.
mm-hmm.
Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. All right. So back to other things that grind my gears, clog my toilets, tangle my hair, um, those kind of things. Um, I've experienced this more recently, and maybe it's just because of where I get on the highway, is as people are trying to merge on the highway, you're supposed to do what is it's called a zipper, leave space. Like, people on the highway are kind of supposed to leave space for a car to merge on, and then the car on the on ramp should leave space between the person in front of them. So it works like a zipper. You all just kind of meet nicely, and you just go along your way. So people won't do that. People won't leave space for people to merge on to the highway, and then that's when people fucking get slowed down, and then you cause a little traffic jam because you're not letting people on the highway, and so eventually someone has to actually come to a stop because the person merging on has run out of on ramp
Mhm.
or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a general rule, right?
Yeah.
Because legally speaking, the person who is merging has to give way to the people already on the highway,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's right to left who has to give way to the people getting on, right? And merging and changing lanes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
They have to give way to the people to the left of them. But if you're driving in the right lane, it's very much common courtesy to be prepared to adjust your speed or to switch lanes in order to allow people to merge.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just making things so much worse. I mean, if there's space in the middle lane, seize the gap, you bitch.
Yeah.
Just move over so everybody
Now,
can merge on and then the speeds level out and then you can get back over if you want to.
yeah.
You're not stuck to one lane. So don't get in that
Mm,
mindset where like, I'm in this lane. This is my lane. You better not be getting in my lane. It's not your lane. It's a road, man. It
yeah.
goes on forever. You're traveling along it. Let the people travel around you. Don't try to impede them just because of some false sense of ownership over your precious little stretch of highway right next to the on ramp.
No. Now, you're right with saying there is no legal obligation. There is no like law that says you have to let people merge on. It's just one of those things that grinds my gears, and it's a dick
It's
thing.
moral. It's
Yeah.
a moral obligation.
So what's worse, there is something worse though, is the person, not allowing enough space, but then there's a person who will move into the on lane. Let's call it the on lane, the lane that, people merge onto the highway. But people from the middle lane or the left lane will merge over to the right lane when a spot opens up that a person trying to merge onto the highway was going to use. This has happened to me several times where I've almost been in an accident and had to bail off of merging on because someone from the middle lane moves over to the right lane when people are trying in on an like on ramp section.
Honk honk.
Like that, like, one, you're just don't do it. I don't understand why you need to do that. Like, in most cases, there's so much room for you to get over if you're already on the highway. Whatever. But so yeah, that gets to me quite a bit because of how many accidents I've almost been in because people will move over when people are trying to get on the highway. So,
It's just the general rule, man.
yeah.
Just don't be an asshole. Just
That-
be a cool dude. Let people merge.
Mhm. Now, another thing that gets me, I got a lot left. Is people not knowing the rules for school buses. I don't have to actually have to deal with this as much anymore because I leave so early in the morning nowadays. But there are too many people that do not know the rules for
Hmm.
school buses. Now
I agree.
let me lay you down. Let me put this. Explain this the best way possible. Um, I actually, I don't think I have it anymore. There used to be a post of where the exact rules, but pretty much in Ohio, if there is 4 lanes, the middle lane, the turn lane does not count. If there are 4 lanes, the opposite direction of traffic does not have to stop for a school bus.
Hmm.
I have almost gotten in accidents, and I've seen an accident from this happening because people will be driving along, and then a school bus on the opposite lane goes to stop. Well, there's that miscommunication of who's supposed to stop or not because people don't know, even though they were told so in driving training or driving
Hmm.
school, whatever. That so that person slams on their brake because they don't want to run that stop sign that the bus puts out or whatever that and that imaginary line that is this red light or whatever you want to call it, and then the person behind them right into them.
Right.
That's almost
And
happened.
this is Ohio law, by the
Yeah,
way.
that
Other
this
states don't have this similar the exact same laws, but
yeah.
it's important to know these rules for these things that you're going to come into, you
Hmm.
know?
um yeah, and that's the thing is like now I tend to give a little bit more leeway from people who are especially that are registered, have license plates registered outside the state, because maybe they don't know everything, and I get it would be silly if you're just driving through Ohio to have to read all the Ohio rules and laws about driving. um but the problem is the majority of the time it's not from anyone outside the state. They're
Hmm.
Ohio license plates, registered Ohio drivers that they should know better.
Yep.
Yet yet they're doing this shit. um But like so, and
It's
then, but in any other case other than four driving lanes, not including a turn lane, any other case, it's all traffic stops. That simple. So,
as
um,
long as you can count to 4, you should know,
yeah.
right?
All right.
Yeah, it's the same rule with like the right on red thing. You know, not all
Mm,
countries have right on red. You know, America is one of the blessed nations that does have right on red.
yeah.
But some states, right on red is prohibited in certain situations. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, they'll be indicated, and the same thing in Ohio too. Sometimes it's indicated. You know, no turn on red. And if there is a no turn on red, don't do it. Just don't, because there's a
Yeah.
reason that there's no turn on red.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a no turn on red relatively close to my house that's completely blind. Like
Oh yeah.
you can't see turning right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no stopping people from honking at you because you're not turning, even though there's no traffic has passed in the last couple of seconds. Because
Yeah.
as soon as you start to go boom, because it's 45, so people are like, you know, it's not. It,
Yeah.
it's a public safety thing. Just follow the rules, guys. Just
Yeah.
follow the rules, and everybody will get there. We'll all get there, man.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I see a lot is that um is you might also see like no turn on red except for curb lane. So I've seen people do this where people will turn right on red is not the curb lane. The curb lane is the furthest, well, is the one nearest the curb. You think that's pretty simple to understand, but apparently it's actually pretty difficult. Um, so yeah, unless you're in the curb lane, well, with that specific warning or rule in effect, don't fucking turn red, because yeah, there's a lot of things that can play into a reason why there might be a no turn on red. It's a blind spot. There's a hill leading into the intersection, so you can so that would cause a blind spot. Um, so you just gotta be safe, man. Because you're one quick thing, one quick accident away from possibly being hurt, disabled, or killed. Um,
Or killing someone else.
or killing someone else. Just because you might walk away from an accident doesn't necessarily mean the other person will. You know,
Driving is dangerous, man. People
yeah.
should give it a little bit more thought when they drive somewhere because it's something you do, most people do in America every day, right?
Hmm.
Just because of the way that our country is laid out, it's pretty big. So driving is something that most people have to do, and
Hmm.
you should just give a little bit more heedance to the fact that you're operating a 2-ton death machine,
Yeah.
you know, that you could just obliterate someone without even thinking about it. You just turn your hand to the right a little bit more and boom, family of 4 gone forever.
Hmm.
So just don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be an asshole with a 2-ton death machine because if
Yeah.
you were doing the same shit that some people do while driving, like if you were in a forklift in a warehouse, you wouldn't be able to drive the forklift anymore.
Hmm.
They would take away your forklift.
Yeah. Well,
So,
there's ways around that. I mean, there's, you of course you could always retest, and in most cases with a forklift, as far as the company I work with, if there's ever an incident, you would just have to retest and go through training again, which is a drag. But
right. But if you killed somebody with a forklift,
yeah, you'd probably be fired. Um,
yeah. So I'm just saying, like the people should give a little bit more credence to that, and then give a little bit more of respect to semi truck drivers too.
well, here,
I've noticed some people just do not respect the immense power of a semi truck, even if you're not respecting the driver, right?
mhm,
Because you might have feelings one way or the other about the driver themselves. The truck itself is massive, and when it gets a going, it don't stop none too easy.
yeah, no,
Don't cut off semi trucks. Don't brake check semi trucks. Don't ride in their blind spots for more than a couple of seconds. Like,
mm,
just be aware that they can't see you if you can't see their mirrors. Be aware that when they turn, sometimes they have to turn wide. So if you don't back up a little bit, they're gonna clip your car.
mhm,
Just be cognizant of the fact that they have to drive differently than you do,
yeah,
and don't ride in their blind spot if you can help it. Don't think that it's not my problem because the road is paved with the bodies of people that had the right of way. Just be aware that if you are in a truck's blind spot and he changes lanes, is, it's not really your fault that he hurts you, but it's your fault that you were
mhm,
there if there was ample room to move.
yeah, and that brings me into another thing that bothers me is no. So again, in Ohio and a lot of United States, or a lot of the United States, is there's this nice thick white line that indicates where you're supposed to stop. So a lot of problem that you brought up is that the semis might clip cars because they make wide turns or whatever, and
Hmm.
or it's because people don't fucking pay attention to that white line.
What's a stop bar?
Yeah. So because the thing is that might be further back than say if in most cases it's the left turn lane might be further back than the other lanes. There's a fucking reason for it. And here's the thing, if you're past and I'll get into this, this is another one that's been driving me up a wall lately. Um is if you're past that, try and back up or try and move yourself in a way that you're not going to cause a problem. But in most cases, well, actually no, not in most, I shouldn't say most cases, but if you're past that white line, you fucked up. But what's been bothering me a lot lately is people not knowing that they should either. So in again, this is Ohio law, and I'm not sure how far it carries over into the rest of the United States. Is that when you are in a left turn, like when you are making a left turn through an intersection, you are to is supposed to claim the intersection. So you can either just like if there's no traffic coming, just go straight through. But if say there's a bunch of traffic coming through, you're allowed to what's called claim the intersection, which is you're allowed to move into the intersection
Yup.
and claim it. So what that means is that even if the light turns red, you have the right to away to then exit the intersection because you're supposed to clear the intersection.
Yeah, you're supposed to clear it when the light is yellow. That's what the yellow light means, is clear the intersection. But
Yeah.
sometimes people coming from the opposite direction decide to run the yellow light because,
Mhm.
1 minute either way is going to make or break their entire life, right?
Mhm.
So even after the light has, turned red, just go, just, vroom, just get out of
Yeah.
the intersection because you're
Yeah.
allowed to claim the intersection and wait for the light to turn yellow to turn if there is no room for you to do so due to oncoming traffic.
Mhm.
Like that's totally allowed, right? What really gets me about that whole thing
Mhm.
is I don't know, I seem to have noticed it a lot more now that I live in Cincinnati, but people get ballsy when it comes to turning left when the light is red, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know, light's turning yellow. Okay, the traffic's finally stopped. I can go, and then the car behind me will go, and then the car behind him will go, and then the car behind him will
Yeah.
go. And the cops don't even care because people do it in packs.
Yeah, and the thing is with that is like cops can't pull over whole entire groups. So if the thing that saves most of the people in that cases is the fact that multiple people do it at once. Now and that's there's two things that tie into this that I want to bring up. Is so you have the people who one don't claim the intersection, and then you have people who claim the intersection and then don't move and just sit there through the next light cycle, and then makes it super awkward for the rest of the people going through the intersection. So okay, so the first one is the person who doesn't claim the light or claim the intersection. So there are several cases in places around Ohio where I've actually sat through a light cycle 5 times because the person didn't claim the intersection. Because the person so let's say you have like a high traffic where there's no green arrow allowing left turns on like to go through first. And there if there's a large amount of opposite traffic coming, then if that person doesn't claim the intersection, that means everybody behind that person is now stuck for the next cycle. Or the person, well, because what's supposed to happen is if you have that situation, the person in front will claim the intersection and then eventually be allowed to go no matter what. And so then you go to the next person and then the next person because then like no matter what, you're at least clearing the left lane a little bit. But the problem is if that person in front doesn't claim the intersection, then guess what, buddy? You're fucking sitting there and you're just wasting gas, burning up the oxygen, burning up the atmosphere and ruining the planet. But it's not your fault. So that drives me up a wall. Now the second one is people who will claim the intersection, move in past that stopping bar, past that white line into the intersection, which technically the crosswalk, as far as I understand, is part of the intersection. If you're that far, you need to leave. Come red light, um, people will go like so far, and then they'll just sit there, and then red light comes, and then they won't move. They'll just sit there, like, oh, it's a
Yeah,
red
I had
light,
that
can't
happen
do
on my way to work the other day. There's turning onto the highway. To get onto the highway, it's a pretty high traffic area where I live.
anything.
And the person who was quote unquote claiming the intersection, right, was pulled about, I don't know, a good car length in front of the stop bar.
Hmm.
And um I generally don't like to ride on those people because like if they decide not to go and then they're cutting off traffic, I like to give them a little bit of room to back up if they need to back up,
Yeah.
right?
which is
You know,
fair.
if it's obvious that they're going, then yeah, I'll move up to claim the intersection. But, you know, I give them a little bit of space because so homeboy, he sits there, right? And then the light turns yellow. No one's coming, right? So he could just go,
Mhm.
and he just stops. He just sits there, right?
Mhm.
Now, the lane that's going to be turning left, like to go onto the road, you know, coming the opposite direction from us, cannot get by since this guy is sitting in the middle of the fucking intersection, right?
Mhm.
So the semi pulls forward, right, to almost to this car, right? But he
Mhm.
cannot go any farther because the lane to his right can go. So their
Mhm.
car is going, you know? So he is stopped. And then the guy in the car in front of me, I can see him, looks up at the truck driver and just stares at him. The
Like,
truck driver looks down at him. And then he goes, honk, honk. And the guy's like, uh. And then I see his backup lights come on, and he boom, and I seriously think this dude was gonna slam into me because of the way he was driving,
mhm.
and then he skirt stops like right bumper to bumper with me. I was
Mhm.
like, ooh, this guy. If he hits me, I'm gonna be mad. Thing is though, the truck who is turning, he almost can't make the turn because that guy was still a little bit too far up,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I can't back up because the car behind me is on my ass, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a car behind him and a car behind him. Like I said, it's a high traffic intersection. So there's like probably 6 cars behind me, and the truck's just like, bah! And then I can see the leftmost light has now turned green, and this truck still has not gone all the way.
Mhm.
So the truck, you know, backs up a little bit, and then turns right to go a little wider to get around this guy. And then the guy finally, at long last, slowly makes his left turn onto the highway and proceeds to go 35 up the entire on ramp.
Another fucking thing that pisses me off is the on ramp is for getting up to speed so that you can match the speed of the highway.
This man was a very frustrating morning for me. But after I have gotten the ability to pass him, I was able to calm myself and collect my thoughts so that I was no longer angry.
Mhm.
So I didn't start tailgating the other people who were out there
Yeah.
going too slow and getting in my way.
Yeah. So, but that brings up a good point. It's like the on ramp is for accelerating to the point that you are matching the speeds of the cars on the highway so that you can properly perform a zipper move to get on the highway without impeding any traffic, thus not causing a traffic jam or a slinky slash ripple effect.
Hmm.
That is what it's for. But for some reason, people think, let me lollygag, take my time to accelerate to a reasonable or whatever speed they want to. Now, there are a few exceptions, of course, to this. Semi truck drivers, big truck drivers that, don't necessarily have the torque slash power capacity to haul their load or get it up to speed very fast. This is understandable. But this little guy in this little Corolla that could zip real quick, going at an acceleration rate of 1 fucking mile per year, is not okay. Like
It's the little one. It's the little pedal.
you,
Press down a little harder.
you are supposed to accelerate, get up to speed, uh, use the on ramp for what it's for, get up to speed, perform that zipper motion, get into the lane, and then carry on the fucking way at the speed limit. here's the thing. The speed limit is not just for how fast you can or how fast you can drive. It's also about how slow you can drive. And I know I've seen this more often is there is a minimum speed limit now where you have to be able to drive so fast or you need to be driving so fast to be on this road. And I really wish they would have uh you know enforce that more. And because you're causing so many fucking problems when you at least don't go the speed limit.
Yeah. It's a damn shame.
Mm-hmm.
And as a
So,
brief addendum to the end of this, one other thing that, sorry, two small things that may cause a little bit of contention amongst our viewers and amongst the people that who might be listening to this podcast. If you drive a white Crown Vic or Ford Explorer with the bike rack on the top, you're a shitty human being, and I don't like you.
yeah, if you drive a cop car, go
Okay,
fuck
okay.
yourself.
If you drive a cop car, all right, and especially if you drive a cop car at night and tailgate people with xenon headlights, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You're not a good person. Pro tip to anybody who gets a little confused and a little wary about those people: cops generally have very well lit license plates showing their squad car number.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can see their license plate and it has letters and numbers on it, it's probably not a cop. So you can
Yeah.
do what you want. But you generally can't tell that until they get close enough for you to read it,
Mm-hmm.
especially at night or if it's raining, you know, and they get real close to you. And that leads me to my second point: xenon headlights. If you have those bright blue eye fuckers, I don't like you. Okay? I'm sorry, but I can't see. There is nothing out that they don't need to be that bright. I get it.
Yeah.
If you have like a big light bar on your big pickup truck that you take out in the middle of the woods where there is no light, that's fair. Okay? Because you need to be able to see out there. There's no street lights. There's no sun. There's sometimes there's no moonlight, right? You need the light bar. Turn that shit off. As soon as you get to a place where there's cell phone reception, you turn that shit off. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if you drive one of those, and everybody always says, especially on the internet where people are bitching about drivers, well, it's just because they don't install them correctly. They put them in normal housing, so they don't point them down. No, even if you point them down, you're a shithead because there's hills, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hills change the angle at which that light is facing. So even if it is pointed down towards the ground like a properly installed xenon headlight should be, when you go up a hill, it still blinds the people coming down the hill. And I
Mm.
live in Cincinnati, and there's a lot of fucking hills.
Yeah. Now, so and here's the thing, and also like you have fucking truck, souped up F-150s that stand like 6 feet, like the headlights are like 6 feet off the ground. So even if they point them down, people who are driving like low, small, sedans or whatever are still going to get it in the face. And so yeah.
It's just normal headlights. Just get some normal headlights. That's actually a requirement of mine, right? When I buy a new car, I was like, what do the
Hmm.
headlights look like? Because I'm not going to
Yeah.
be that guy.
Yeah. Those headlights need to be banned because like I mean, if you can come up behind a car and you're 100 yards away from them, but somehow your fucking lights are overpowering mine, they're too damn bright.
Yep. I mean, I stopped flashing my brights at people, because,
Hmm.
flash your brights at them and tell them, hey, your brights are on, man. I can't see shit, right?
They wouldn't be able to see it.
When I did it to somebody who had those xenon headlights, because I thought, oh my god, I can't fucking see, right? And like, blap, blap. And then he flashed his brights back at me. And I swear to God, it was like witnessing an angelic structure too pure for my eyes. So they burned. They scratched my corneas. I still have a floaty in my eye from the brightness of those lights. Farms on a distant planet burst into flames.
Yeah.
People could see it from towns over. The police blotter was blowing up. I just saw a big flash. I think it might have been an explosion.
Yeah.
Are the Russians invading? What's happening here? So no, I stopped flashing my brights at those people because if their brights aren't on, I don't want to die.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like xenon lights are like bright are like the brights on standard like lights. Like that level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking ridiculous. So,
You people.
alright. I think that's probably about all I got. And we've already hit our hour mark now.
Yep,
So
that's all I got too. So just be
just
safe out there, people. Don't be dicks.
yeah. And yeah, just be nice, be patient, take a breather, and you know, all you gotta do is turn on get your phone out before you leave. Go to YouTube, put on the Basement Grown Fun Guys podcast, and listen to us talk. And let us be your voice of frustration on your drive home, so you don't have to be.
There you go.
So with that, this has been the Basement Grown Fun Guys, November 21st, 2019. I'm John signing off.
I'm Tony. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
Adios.